Hey Vesco, how you doing?
Hi, Azza, I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. It's a pretty calm night here in Malaysia. It's evening for you right there, right? Like 3 p.m. I think.
Yeah, it's like mid afternoon right now.
Right. Okay. So today we're going to do an interview in which we're going to talk about. I think the topic is mostly based around English in Portugal. You can say. So that's the topic for this
Okay.
interview. We're gonna have three questions. So let's begin. Okay. First off. Um, Based on your background of being Portuguese, right? What can you say about the expanding power of English in your country?
Uh, what I can say is they're very it's very weird seeing how many English people have come to Portugal. Like Portugal's a very nice country, especially if and the economy is not too great, so it's very easy to like for the people to come into the country and like invest in like housing and all that in that
Right,
country. So if you go down south, it's very common to see like lots of English people who have like lived there for like years,
right.
who've got their own businesses, like, and it's basically like almost like an English city, because I went on a holiday. I went on a holiday one time to the south, and I just saw English people, and I was like, "Whoa, where's the Portuguese people at?" And I found myself speaking English a lot more than I thought I would, and I was like, "Okay, well, it's weird to see, like, obviously, but yeah, it's just how the world works, I guess. It's very common for different cultures, different people to like explore and like go live somewhere else. I personally can't complain. I'm a Portuguese in England, so it would
Okay.
be hypocritical.
Right. I mean, yeah, the one where you said that you find yourself speaking English more. Yeah, I can relate to that too. Actually, I don't know. I could say that weirdly, I'm more comfortable speaking English than my native language, Malay. It doesn't mean that I'm not proud of my heritage. Obviously,
Yeah,
it just feels more natural somehow. I don't know.
yeah.
It's kind of funny.
It's easy to. I think that's very common because if you look how the world looks, like 90% of the media that you take through is English. If you go on TV, there's a good chance there's something English on there. If you go on social media, like 90% of the stuff you're looking at is like in English. Um, so I think it's very common to like find yourself speaking English and like finding yourself more comfortable in England because the whole world is like revolves around that one language almost.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I played games a lot as a child, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Second question. Um, so let's talk about the history and development, and also current progress of English. What can you say about these topics? It's kind of similar to the first question, but I think it's more like, is there like actual development from like the government itself or something like that to push English in Portugal? You could say.
Uh, I wouldn't say that. No, I think if anything, they're doing that without meaning to. Right now, I think England's a country that's developing backwards instead of forwards,
Hmm.
and I think due to that, it's pushing people to go and explore other avenues, other areas, other countries. Um, because the history of England has always been that we're this country, we look after for our people.
Hmm.
We our economy is good, everything is good. We're like the most like everything's like if you look at it as like almost as if like it's like a video game. They've got equal stats and everything.
Hmm.
But as time has gone by, whether it's due to COVID or whether it's just due to poor governing, um, some things have deteriorated as other things have like gone up. And I think that's why it's pushed so many people to try and go and explore different cultures and explore different countries. And I think that's why we find a lot of British people like just going to Portugal or like any other country now, and why it's so much more common. I think they've just been kind of pushed out by the rules and like the laws and like the way the country's run.
Ah, okay, I see. Right. Okay, so the third and final question I have for you is that I want to talk about the phonology, which means like the pronunciation of the local, you could say the local way Portuguese people speak English. Is there like some things that are unique in the way that Portuguese people speak English? You would say?
Yes, if they're new to the country, then yes. I mean, me personally, I'm fluent, so I've not had that problem. I feel like if you've learned the country, because like me and my mum have been in the country. She's been here longer than me,
Right.
but she still finds herself like speaking like almost like a foreigner.
Mhm.
But whereas me, where I've learned the country so young, I'm like fluent. I've got the accent. I can pronounce all the words, no matter how they are. I feel like the Portuguese person gets their H's. They can't like the th. They can't pronounce that. Whereas we say they might say tuh, and it's like no, it's the like it's a th, and their brain doesn't really comprehend it because that's not something you find in other languages. But it's very much these two letters that are pronounced as one word. Is something they struggle with, like ph, th. You know, they always find themselves like pronouncing it like actually instead of like pronouncing what it's supposed to be. Um, but other than that, I think the rest, the way they speak English is quite normal. It's very like I said, it's very common for people to learn English as like a second language in like Europe, especially in Portugal. So apart from these little twists they have in the language, where it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, they're quite good at it and they can pronounce like pretty much everything.
All right. Okay. So that's it for this interview. Thank you so much for answering these three questions.
No
Really,
problem.
yeah, it really helps to understand Portuguese culture. I mean, to be honest with you, the other people in my classroom, they have they take people from foreign countries, obviously, but not as far as Portugal. I would say this is kind of like a rare
Yeah,
opportunity. Usually, this is pretty cool. I didn't expect us
yeah.
to ever know each other. Honestly, it's just a weird coincidence, and yeah, here we are, I guess.
Here we are. Yeah, who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean,
Yeah, but it's been a good experience. Yeah, I've liked speaking about my culture. I don't do it often.
mhm.
I never really take it. I don't get to sit back and like appreciate where I'm come from, like what I am, my people and everything. So it's been nice to answer some questions. So
Okay, that's good to hear. All right, so that's it for this interview. See you, Vesco.
see you guys. Nice to speak to you.
All right.
Hi, it's nice to meet you, Umar Khan.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, so can we start off right now?
Um, sure. Let me just look at the questions. I made some notes on it before.
Okay,
Um, what do you think about the expanding power of English in your country? Okay.
tell me whenever you're ready.
Sure. Just give me a minute.
Okay,
Hmm. Okay. Can you go question by question, or you want me to do all questions at once?
one by one.
One by one? Okay.
Okay, okay, can we start now?
Sure.
Okay, so hi, Umar Khan. I would like to ask you three questions. Um, so the first one is, what do you think about the expanding power of English in your country?
So English in Pakistan, um, it's been expanding a lot because we were once a British colony under India before, we got separated. And English is one of our official languages. So alongside with Urdu, you also have English in any official documents. We learn it in our curriculum since kindergarten. So in terms of, living in the country, if you want a job, you need to know basic level English. If you don't, you can't really get anywhere. It holds a very big, power. Like the more English you know, the more opportunities you have. It's not really more so about how much Urdu you know, because Urdu is just like everyone speaks Urdu, right? It's like the default language. But when it comes to the economy, when it comes to jobs, if you want a job, like a really good job, you need to know English. So I think English plays a very big role in Pakistan.
Okay. So, question number two. Can you talk about the history, development, and current progress of English in Pakistan?
Well, like I said before, with English in the past, because we were once a British colony, that's how English was introduced, right? The Britishers spoke English, and people who joined the military, people who were like any government officials, um, all of that happened through colonization. So a lot of English, it was kind of forced onto the people, right? Like English was assimilated into lots of like areas in Pakistan and in India, right? So English, in the beginning, English was like this language where if you spoke English, it was like a language people, looked at you and they're like, "Oh, you've been colonized, right? Like you're one of them now, right?" But over time, English turned from being like the white man's language into a language that everyone knows, right? So it went from just a small like a language that you shouldn't speak to a language that you should know, right? Even more so than Urdu, because globally, well, no one really speaks Urdu, right? So yeah, it definitely grew. Like the progression is really there, especially with vocabulary as well. Like people barely knew how to speak English before, and now everyone knows how to speak English. So yeah, definitely has grown a lot.
Okay. So, for our last question, is it possible for you to explain the
Yeah.
phonology of Pakistani English?
Well, the phonology of Pakistani English is different compared to like other accents because like me, I've really lost a lot of my accent because I've studied internationally, right? But from a younger age, like there's like certain words we pronounce that are different, right? We mostly follow British English. So for example, we say schedule. We don't say schedule like Americans say. And certain like words like for example like 30, we'll say 30. Like there'll be like a strong t sound, right?
Oh, okay.
Anything that has like a th sound, it's very thick, right? So for T, right? When it comes to our V's and our W's, we mix them up, right? So if we say, you know, like very like we'll say wary, not very, right? Traditionally, that's how we're taught. So it's very different from like let's say British English or American English or anywhere in the world, but at the same time it's all like the closest dialect to it would be British English for sure. It's the closest accent.
Oh, okay. So, that's all of the three questions. Thanks,
Hmm.
William, for helping us in the
No
discussion.
worries. No worries, man. No worries.
So, would you like to introduce yourself first?
All right, sure, Aman. So, hello, my name is Connor McMichael. I'm 23 years old and I was born in Dublin, Ireland. My dad is Irish and my mom's Malaysian, and well, which explains why I don't really look I don't really look white or anything. But I've been living in Ireland for a good portion of my life. So when I was born, I was in Malaysia, but when I was in like 3 years old, I moved all the way to Dublin, Ireland, and I attended a public. And for a good portion of my life, I've been studying there. I've been living there. Occasionally coming back to Malaysia just to visit my extended family from my mom's side.
Oh,
And right now I'm studying in the University of Birmingham in business management. As for hobbies, I like to actually like play games, go hiking, sometimes fishing in the lakes, and so on.
I see. That's very interesting about your background story. So, I will proceed to the point I'm doing this interview. So, I will ask you some questions first. Okay.
All
So
right,
the
all right.
first questions is the UK and Ireland has a bit of a bitter history. The
Hmm.
UK was basically the colonizer of Ireland for around hundreds of years, if I'm not mistaken. And based on your background of being Irish, what do you think about the expanding power of English in your country?
To be honest, I'm 22 years old and I'm partially from Malaysia. None of this has anything to do with me, putting it bluntly. So I can't really say much on that note. On English expanding its power, well, to be honest, I'm not really fluent in the Irish language, also known as Gaelic, so it doesn't really affect me at all. Because after all, the main language spoken here, both in UK and Ireland, is English. So it doesn't really hold any sway to me whatsoever. Uh, However, I'm still partially Irish, so at the end of the day, I don't want my mother tongue. Well, not to say mother tongue, more like one of my main languages, Gaelic, to just simply die off just because of the ever expanding presence of um, England to other like to the rest of the United Kingdom. I didn't stay here all my life, sure, but who cares? It's part of my identity, you know. Nothing wrong with being English expanding or whatever, but again, just don't let the Irish shit disappear. Not at all.
All right, that was that was very honest of you talking about that, and that was a good answer to the question I gave to you. And yeah,
Thank you, thank you.
okay. So let's move on to the next question. So let's talk about history, development,
All right.
and the current progress of English in Ireland. So, what can you say about these topics?
Development and current progress of English in Ireland, you say? Well, English has been the mainstay in Ireland for a very, very long time, more longer than I've been in the country, so to speak. So, hmm, I don't really have much opinion on the matter actually, and uh, I I don't know about me, but at least for my dad, from my dad's point of view, like his grandparents, his great grandparents, they don't really have a choice in the matter because it's been around for such a long time that it's sort of just the norm now. I would say I can't blame them really. How is it developing right now? Is that I can see more people who seem more comfortable speaking English
Oh,
than Irish. So it's like well, Gaelic to be specific, but yeah, which is good for me. Let's be real. You see, like I'm more of an English speaking person. I don't really know my Gaelic at all, so still good for me. However, if you go to the rural parts of Ireland, especially up north, you can occasionally find people who can still speak the old Irish language, Gaelic. So shout like big shout outs to them. Really, like pretty good for them to actually uphold the Irish traditions and culture. So what I can tell you about Irish people in general is that they're very proud people, and while the Gaelic language has been dying off after all this time, the fact that there are still people who actually like um, uphold these things, like uphold past history and so forth, I'd say that's pretty good. So, hmm, uh, yeah, I think that's it from me. I'm not sure. I don't really have much else to mention apart from that. Anything else you would need me to describe a bit more, perhaps?
hmm. Um, I think I think that actually answered all my questions. Actually, to be honest.
I see. I see.
So that was a really good explanation there, Connor. I mean, wow, those those histories, those developments, and the current progress of the English in your country. Those are some fascinating facts to know. Actually,
Thank you, Aman.
well,
Really appreciate it.
so now I will go on to the last question of the day. which is I want to talk about the phonology. Phonology means like pronunciation of the local English in your country, which is Ireland.
I see.
So, could you tell me more? Could you tell me more detail about this phonology in Ireland?
Hmm. That sort of question is a bit too open. I'd say a good example would be, um, at least for Irish English, right? When you try and pronounce like words with the letter I in it in between, for example, the word kid. So most Irish people they tend to drag the I like quite long. So when you say like the word kit, KIT, it sounds like keet, like KEET. So I want to buy a keet, and that's pretty much it for vowels. Like there's not much to change for it. As for consonants in general, so for example, hmm, what's a good word? What's a good word? For example, the word this, THIS. So the T, like normally, how do I say this? Normally, the T is silent, uh, and you sort of just like pronounce this as like this as this, right? However, for Irish people, right, like when they pronounce the word this, it's much more pronounced. Like the thing about like Irish people like pronouncing consonants in general is that it it's pretty much how you would say it in English, except it's much more prevalent. So when a normal person, like a normal English speaker, they say this, an Irish person would be even more. It would Their explanations would be even more potent, and it would all say this, and you can tell. Like the moment they pronounce it that way, you can tell. Ah, that guy's Irish. Like I can tell.
So
Yeah.
what you're saying, they're putting the letter D instead of TH.
Uh, I mean, to be fair, like the T and H is always silent, so it's sort of like this. Like even normal English speakers, I believe in Malaysia as well, should pronounce it the same way, like the word this. But in Ireland, what I'm saying is that it's much more potent. It's like it's doubled down.
Oh, double
Uh,
down.
yeah, like they double down on a lot of like the pronunciations on certain vowels and certain consonants. Like kid, you get keet. You drag the I. The word this is this. They really drag the consonants around. Well, longer, not around, but yeah.
Okay. Hmm. Anything else to further more about about this question?
Mm, what's another word? I'd say the word goat. The word goat actually applies here because goat. Uh, in I'm not sure about Malaysia, but in the UK they just pronounce it like the word goat. It's just it's just a regular word. However, in Ireland, well, okay, I won't say all parts of Ireland, mostly the rural areas, like I mentioned earlier, they really drag the vowels, and this applies here as well. So instead of saying goat, you say goat, goat, and it really gets they always tend to drag the vowels and consonants along. So yeah, it's just how it is. It's just how it is in Ireland.
Okay,
Yeah,
I see.
yeah,
There was an interesting fact about it about the English Irish,
yeah.
the English in Irish. They are dragging the words. Were I find it quite interesting actually because
Hmm.
in Malaysia we don't drag the words. We just like usually use it in how the British people would say it actually.
I see. I see.
Oh,
Hmm.
so I think that's about it about today's interview. First of all, I would like to thank you,
Mm.
Connor, for joining this interview. Even though I don't know you very well,
Mm.
but thank you for helping me in this interview. Actually,
Yeah, no problem, man. Anytime. Like, I'm glad you reached out to me to actually ask you to help me out. I mean, ask me to help you out. Sorry. Yeah.
all right, thank you. So I'll be seeing you like another time. Actually,
I mean, sure. If you need any help, like regarding your essays or your assignments, just let me know. Hit me up again.
all right, I'll hit you up again when I have these certain assignments or essays that I need help with. Thank you,
All right.
Connor.
All right. Sure, man. See you, man. Thanks for
Bye.
stopping by. Bye.
Bye.